Hi, this is Chris Monk at Highline Guitars, and you're watching another episode of From the Luthier's Workbench. I think what I'm going to do in this episode is I'm just going to give you an update on some of the projects that I've been working on and maybe answer some viewer questions that have been posted in the comments of some of my earlier videos. But earlier this week, I finished building what I'm calling the Highline Guitars Flourish carved top, and it's a really sweet guitar. It's all mahogany body with a Flourish design that's carved in the top, and that design was one that I created myself on the computer, and then this was my first foray into engrave carving with my CNC machine using V-bits, and it turned out really great, and I was really happy with it. It's equipped with hip shot bridge, hip shot locking tuners, stainless steel fret wire, my own custom hand wound Highline humbuckers, CTS pots, Sprague orange drop capacitor, Switchcraft three-way toggle, and Switchcraft jack. The finish is it's a water-based dye with black paint, and then it's oversprayed with a matte polyurethane finish. So I'll be putting this one up on Reverb probably in the next week or so. Just depends on when I can get all the specs written down and put up the photos. So I'll have a link down in the description below so you can find my Reverb page in case you're interested in checking out the specs on it. Another guitar that I'm working on right now, I've actually got two that are under construction and then two that are in design. The Flourish guitar that I just described is my first of 2018, and I've got the two others under construction now, which will also be my first of 2018. I'm hoping to get 2, maybe 4 more guitars done this month. We'll just have to see how the schedule plays out. But one of them is this one, which I kind of covered in the video I posted last week, where I showed how I did this inlay design. This is not painted, nor is it printed. It was inlay carved and then filled with, it's a mixture of acrylic, water-based acrylic craft paint mixed with 4F pumice to create kind of a thick, pasty material. And then I just filled it in, let it dry, sanded it off. And this is the top for that guitar. So this is one of them that I'm currently working on. And I actually just finished cutting the neck for it, so I will be installing the truss rod on the neck, and then I have a fretboard which I also cut. This is stuff I did this morning, so I'm hoping in the next day or so I'll be able to put the truss rod in, glue the fretboard down, and start installing frets. Then all I have to do is cut the base of the body, which will be 1.5 inches thick mahogany. So that's ready to go, and I'm hoping that by the middle to the end of next week I'll be starting to apply finish to this. And in fact, that brings up one of the reader questions that I wanted to address. After I shot the video showing how I used this technique to create this design on here, several people asked what was going to happen when I apply a stain or a dye. Is it going to change the color? And to be perfectly honest with you, I can't say for sure 100% that I know exactly what's going to happen, because I don't, but I do have my own gut instinct that tells me it's probably just going to get a little bit darker, which is kind of what I intend, because this is sort of flat and dull right now. So I think if I put a finish over the top, that helps make it a little bit darker and contrast better with the wood. It should look nicer. But what I think I'm going to do is, when I'm ready to apply the finish on this, the dye and followed by, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down a dye first, and then I'm going to put down a Danish oil. It's a non-pigmented Danish oil. It's my own mix. It's polyurethane, boiled linseed oil, mineral spirits, and Japan dryer. But when I get ready to put down the dye on this, I'll do a Facebook Live video, and you can watch me as I'm actually doing this live. And I'll try and do that next week. So if you're not already following me on Facebook, I'll put a link down in the description below so that you can find my Highline Guitars Facebook page and like it or follow it or whatever, and then I'll post some updates when I think I'm getting ready to do the video, so you can be ready to watch it. And of course, you'll be able, I think, watch it afterwards too. So, but you can see, everyone, including myself, can watch what's going to happen when I apply the dye. Now, the stain that I plan to use on this, it's a water-based dye. It's an aniline dye, so it's very potent. But I've got it fairly diluted because all I want to do is I want to use it. It's a brown dye. I want it to pop some of the flame figure in this wood. Then, once it's dry, I might lightly sand off, depending on how it turns out. Lightly sand the surface to remove the excess before I start to put down my unpigmented, non-pigmented Danish oil clear coats. So stay tuned for that. That'll be kind of fun to do. Another guitar that I'm currently in the process of building is, and you saw this in a couple of videos ago, this is my Highline Guitars Longhorn, and this was that polymer clay inlay technique that I used. Again, it was carved in, and then the inlay was packed into it, cured, and then sanded off. And I'm a little bit further behind on this one. I've got the neck blank here, and all I've done is cut the truss rod channel in it, so I need to go back in and cut the rest of it out. Usually it takes me about 3 hours on the CNC machine to carve out a neck, so it depends on whether I want to finish the neck or do more work on the Dragon guitar, and I think I'm kind of feeling like I want to do more work on the Dragon guitar. But for the Longhorn, I'm going to be using a Purple Heart fretboard, which is done. It just needs to be cleaned up a little bit. And so that's what I'm going to do with that. And of course, the neckline, which I just showed you, this is a flamed maple. And normally, I'm not a big fan of using flamed maple for guitar necks. I prefer using a quarter sawn Eastern rock maple. That stuff just, it stays straight, it doesn't bend, it doesn't warp, it doesn't twist. It's just the most reliable wood that you can use for a guitar neck. But I do like the way a flame maple neck looks. So if I'm able to find wood that meets my requirements, I'll go ahead and make some necks out of it. And this wood that I came across at my local lumber supplier met my requirements. And what my requirements are for flame maple for a neck is the wood has to be at or below 8% moisture content. And I check the moisture content on several places on the wood to make sure that it's a consistent and reliable reading. And my lumber supplier, which here in Denver is Austin Hardwoods, they do a pretty good job of supplying wood that's good and dry. I've never got anything that was over 8-9% moisture. But for a neck, because of the requirements for stability, if I'm going to be using flamed maple, it's got to be at least 8% or drier. And I also check to make sure that the board is absolutely as straight as I can possibly get it. Flamed maple has a tendency to be bowed or maybe a little bit of a twist in it. And if it's significant enough, which for me means just barely twisting or barely warped, I won't bother with it, because that wood is just not reliable for a guitar neck. And I see a lot of guys using flame maple for guitar necks, and I'm just hoping that when they're picking the wood, they're getting wood that is absolutely straight and absolutely dry, because if it isn't, that wood down the road is going to cause problems with warping and twisting, and it's just not reliable. And even though people will tell you you can plane out, warp, twist, and that kind of thing, it doesn't work. So as long as the wood is, like I said, 8% or below in moisture content and is pretty straight. And also, when I check straightness, if I've got like an 8-foot board, a lot of times we look down the edge to make sure it's straight and that it's not bowing or warping or twisting. But what I like to do is take about a 2-foot long straight edge and check it every 2 feet, because it may have some bow that you can see along its length, but if there's noticeable bow in just 2 feet, it's not good. You can't use it. So I check that and make sure that every 2 feet is going to be straight enough. And like I said, if it's at the right moisture content, it should work pretty well. And this board happened to do that. Although I'll tell you, I've gone into the lumber yard so many times, and I've just not been able to find flame maple that meets that criteria. And I'm not going to build a guitar and sell it to somebody if I'm worried that neck is going to bow or warp a little bit. It's just not worth the trouble. So that's kind of what I've got going as far as the guitar projects. Like I said, there are a couple of others I have that I'm designing, but I'm not ready to show those yet. Now, another project that I'm working on that's kind of outside of the whole guitar building realm, and if you follow me on Facebook, my Highline Guitars page, you may have seen a photo, is I have started to design and build a new CNC machine. Now, I've got this Inventables X-Carve right here, so you're probably wondering, if I've got an Inventables X-Carve, why design and build a new CNC machine? Well, there's a couple of reasons actually, and it goes back to before I had the X-Carve. I really wanted to design and build my own CNC machine because I think it'd be a fun project. However, at the time I was thinking about it, I didn't really know enough about CNC technology to feel confident that I could actually pull it off. So I decided just to put it on the back burner. And the problem was, at that time, the only commercially made CNC machines that were available were priced anywhere from $3,000 to $5,000, and that's still the case in some instances. There just wasn't anything that I would consider an entry-level consumer-grade machine, something that the serious hobbyist / small business person could purchase and use. It meant a significant investment in money, and I knew a lot of guys who went out and sank a lot of money into these expensive CNC machines. And I actually know several luthiers who went out of business as a result of that, because they put so much money into it and they could just never get it to work. And it was a business killer for them. But then along came the X-Carve, and that one was priced at about half of what the cheapest consumer grade CNC machines were. So, I mean, it was kind of a no-brainer. And for the past couple of years, I have to say I've been really thrilled with this machine. It's worked great, and it's totally transformed the way I build guitars. That being said, however, it's important to understand that this X-Carve is the first version of the X-Carve. The X-Carve they're selling today has been upgraded significantly, and in the 2 years I've been using this machine, there were a couple of things that I wanted to change that the upgraded version has actually taken care of. First is I wanted a more powerful controller, because the one that's running it now just isn't putting enough power to the stepper motors. I also wanted to increase the stiffness of the X-axis, because it's a little bit flexible, and even though I've tried to modify it myself, I know that Inventables is selling a new cross member here that is much stiffer. It's a one-piece unit. The other thing I wanted to do was to increase the Z-axis capacity. Now the problem with doing that is you have to do a number of different things to increase that capacity. And as I started looking at it in detail, I began to realize that increasing the Z-axis capacity along with all the other things I wanted to change was going to increase the cost and time to do the work, almost to the point where it started to make sense to design and build a machine from scratch. So that's what I decided to do. And it's more of a kind of a fun hobby project for me, but I actually started designing the machine about 2 weeks ago. And over the course of the past couple of weeks, I've probably done 10 to 12 different revised designs. Every time I would think I was getting close to a finished design, you know, I'd put it away, I'd sleep on it, the next day I'd look at it and I'd have some new ideas. And of course the internet is full of all kinds of inspiration out there, and I kept seeing new approaches and executions for CNC technology that I'd seen. I think I got to try that on my design, see if it works. And there were a couple of different machines that I looked at that have inspired me and have influenced me. And I'm right now at the point where I've ordered all the components that I'm going to use on the machine. And I've designed a full-scale 3D rendering of the design, and this was done to kind of help me visualize the concept. And then I actually created one of the components. This would be the first part of it, and this is actually the router mount. And my plan is to continue using my DeWalt router because it seems to work really well. But if I decide down the road to go with a more powerful, water-cooled spindle, all I have to do is replace just the mount part of it here. But I put this together just to kind of see how this structure, was it going to be strong enough? And I'm confident that I can build this entire machine with Baltic birch and then install all the components on it. And once those components arrive, and I expect they'll be here, a lot of them are, as you would imagine, are coming from China, so it may be a couple of weeks before I get them. But once I get those components, I can do the final measurements of those parts and then do the final full-scale plan for it. And then I'm hoping that once I get all this done, I plan to shoot video of the process of building the machine, but I may offer the plans for sale because at the moment I'm pretty happy with the design that I've come up with. It's really tailored to what I do as a guitar builder, and I think it's going to be a reasonably priced machine, but its capacities and capabilities, well, at least its capabilities are going to be substantially higher than what the X-Carve is capable of. Right now with the X-Carve, I'm comfortable pushing the router at about maybe 100 inches per minute. Anything more than that, I find I can get into trouble with missteps and the problems that causes. But I'm looking at building a machine that's going to go 400 inches per minute and beyond. So we'll see how that turns out. And I'll keep you updated on that one as well. It should be a fun project. There's a bunch of them that I've seen on YouTube, so we'll see if I can improve upon what other people have done. So, but that's really all I've got for today, and I am going to get back to work on the Dragon guitar, and we'll see where that winds up. So again, stay tuned, and I will update on Facebook as to when I plan to do the live video showing how I apply stain or dye to the Dragon guitar top. We'll see how that turns out. So take it easy, and we'll see you soon.